So in thinking about talking today, I don't want to talk about insurance. It's just, it bores everybody. So I decided not to. It was just an easier thing to actually talk about something else that I just was just feeling like talking about today. I kind of felt like BNI is a place that I really loved it here. I've loved getting to know everyone here. I love looking at this as a great way to grow my business. And I had some thoughts on some just different things in regards to diligence and to goals and to goal setting. And when I was thinking about all these things, I started remembering, it's funny, Alfred was talking about some of these memories from college, but when I was in college, I ran track and field. And I ran track and field for years and years. And I actually traveled all over the US and Canada, actually competing in a lot of these meets. And there was one meet that always stood out above the rest for me particularly. And in this one meet, it was spring in 2002. And the meet came down to, there's about 5 teams there, and the point score came out even. So the final meet of the day is the 4x400 meter relay, and I was the anchor leg for that meet. And I turned around, and I took the baton, and I took off for the race, and the whole lap for the 400 sprinting, I was about 3 inches with this other competitor, a really great athlete. And you know, doing track in college, it was a priority I'd made at the time. It was a priority I made at the time, but it was also something that I had been good at already, so you know, I don't know how much I really spent time getting better at it. And in thinking about it, you know, we all have these activities that we do in our life. We have our occupations, we have our hobbies, we have our families, we have our commitments, we have BNI, we have all kinds of things, and some are weighted more heavily than others. And for each of these tasks, we have to do certain things. For work, we have to do Excel spreadsheets, and potentially have to make presentations for some of our networking clubs. And for each of these things that we have to do, we think of what level of proficiency we want to do them. Do we want to do them at just the bare minimum, or do we want to actually excel, and do better, and actually try to raise the bar on all of these things? And Vince Lombardi had a quote, and he said, "The difference between a successful person and others is not the lack of strength, not a lack of knowledge, but rather a lack in will." And the lack of will really is key. And we as humans have the propensity to make commitments. We all make commitments regularly. Someone says, "Hey, do you want to come help me, you know, mend my fence or mow my lawn or move for a weekend?" And people say, "Yeah, you know, I could do one of these things." And do we do it great, or we do it at the bare minimum? And this extends more than a friend asking you to do things. We have commitments to kids. I have commitments to my dog. Some people have commitments to, you know, all kinds of different stuff. And people all have these commitments, but you never hear someone say something mediocre. You never hear someone say, "I aspire to the minimum in my job. I strive to raise my kids at a medium standard of living. I would like to be a mediocre player on my sports team. I hope to listen to my wife or husband just enough to make my home life bearable." And these comments aren't things that real people say, but these are all things that real people do. We all do them every day. We don't say it just like that, but you know, we go home and we do these things that are just at the bare minimum. And we often engage in presence rather than actual sincere effort. And we've all heard that the quote that 90% of success is showing up. Well, that's great if you only want to be someone who shows up, but if you ask me, that's a pretty low bar. Exceedingly low. The fight with complacency never ends. Everyone in this room is here for the purpose of growing, goal setting. They want to make their business better. Everyone is here spending their Wednesday every week with the goal of wanting to actually break the mold, do better. And we can also all count the things in here that we do as bare minimum. Everyone in here, I'm sure, has the thoughts of stuff that is just very regular. And we as humans have to dance the fine line between existing and thriving. And the question I put to every person here is, which of those do you want to do? Do you want to be the person who showed up every day to their job? That's it, just showed up. They were their kid's father every day. Or do you want to resound with excitement and just say, "I've broken every sales barrier at my company because I wasn't willing to take second place. I've tried as hard as I can in everything I've done so that I've never come in second. I consistently go home with sincere purpose of being the best husband, wife, son, daughter that they can be." And it might sound something that seems so simple, but it's not, because people go through their lives just being quite nonchalant about all of these different things. And it's a hard lesson to have the great failures of our lives teach us that 90% of showing up isn't enough. 10% failure rate. You got 90% of success of showing up, you got 10% of failure. And for me, that's not enough for me. And it's a hard lesson to have some of these things come up and kind of slap you in the face every so often. And for me, running, this particular story that I started this talk out with, I lost that race that day. And it wasn't by much, and I could go over the whining about how it was over by a couple inches, or I could go over how this other athlete was a member of the Costa Rican national team and how my shin splints were hurting that day. But all of that wouldn't matter other than the fact that I lost. It's just whining after that point. And that's when I realized, when I lost that day, that my ego had lied to me. My ego told me I was good enough. My ego said, Max, you are good enough. You do not have to work harder than this. You will do just fine as is. My ego lied. I lost, and it mattered. It was not a small deal. And that's the case for a lot of people and everything. You know, the thought that I'm good enough as is and I don't have to try any harder is it's an unfortunate reality that's not true. We all have to try harder. And we have to try harder because life in general, and I've had a lot of one-on-ones, people in this room, a lot of people in here have had career changes over the course of the last 3 and 4 years. In fact, I'd imagine I'm one of them. You know, life, for the economy getting hard, dealt a lot of people a lot of losses. And I, for one, am not willing to say that I'm not going to work harder to have those losses not hit me as hard. And some of that extra work that goes on for everybody in here and out in your work life and everything, don't let that opportunity to get complacent, let your ego tell you it's going to be okay, take over. So, in conclusion, I challenge everyone here, as my great loss taught me, don't be complacent and wait for a great loss to teach you that. In your married lives, in your family lives, in your active lives, here in BNI, don't simply wait till you have a loss to correct. So go above and beyond in everything you do.